We talk about November being this pivotal period. I know it's too simplistic to just point to the election, but is that what helped turn the tide here?
I would say that, the kind of surge in the New York City luxury market started happening before the election. For a while, I think luxury real estate shoppers were kind of waiting for the right moment to make a purchase. And when the Fed cut its benchmark rate in September, that created a lot of optimism around the economy. It sent stocks up. People started shopping and felt like it was starting to be a good time. And, I think as we saw from this November data, that optimism around the economy continued through November. As you mentioned, there were 90 contracts to buy homes over 5 million in November. And that's the third best November for sales in the past decade. And that's according to Brokerage Corcoran. Yeah.
So are people paying cash or are they borrowing even with rates fairly elevated?
Yeah, so the segment that we looked at, people who buy homes at 4 million or 5 million above, they're not as sensitive to mortgage rates or maybe some other financial barriers as other home buyers, but they still want to know that they're making a smart home purchase. So we saw some price reductions in the market. There were some new developments that opened in the New York City market that gave shoppers options. And, people still, if it makes more sense for them to borrow or get a pledged asset line loan, they'll do that if it makes more sense. And I think that's what really moved the needle for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was really struck by one of the anecdotes you included, who was a buyer who wanted to capitalize on this moment when mortgage rates were fairly high. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think, just like as it has been in the national US housing market, New York's housing market has been really quiet, especially compared to the pandemic home buying frenzy. And so I think that, luxury real estate buyers still weren't happy where prices were at. But when they realized that, mortgage rates might come down, that might mean that there would be more competition in the market. And they hoped to strike a deal while, sellers were still willing to negotiate, while listings were still kind of sitting around on the market for a while.